Welcome to the Charleston Chicks. I'm your host, Lisa Nicole.
And I'm your host, Melanie.
Today we are asking the question, do women make better leaders than men? Melanie.
Do you want me to start?
Oh, I do.
I have lots of thoughts about this question. First of all, there is clearly a gender stereotype around women in leadership, right? So traditionally, their stereotype is that women are, I've heard it, I even have heard it recently, which is surprising me because it's 2026, that women are too emotional to make good leaders.
Women are too emotional to make good leaders?
I know. Crazy, right? So let's talk about that stereotype.
Do you want to talk about some headlines of emotional men? I mean, come on.
I know. There's so much to unpack with that. It was like, wait, what? So it comes from, and I'll back us up just a little bit. So that stereotype comes from that like very traditional view of leadership that is from a male lens. That leadership is about dominance, control, assertiveness, and all of those things associated with the generation prior to our generation and before them, that like the last, 10,000 years of male leadership. And kind of rooted in patriarchy.
Of course.
And so that's where like that stereotype is coming from, because masculine traits are associated with control, dominance, assertiveness, that kind of thing, right? And feminine traits are caregiving, nurturing, and
which makes better leaders.
Well,
for tons of reasons. Listen, I have been researching studies on this because I knew we were talking about it today. Multiple studies suggest that women excel in leadership more so than men because we demonstrate higher levels of several traits that are strongly linked to effective modern leadership.
Keyword, modern leadership.
So women are more transformational leaders.
Yep.
There was a landmark study done by Alice Eagly and some of her colleagues that said that women were more likely to use transformational leadership, a style associated with motivating teams, mentoring employees, building trust, and inspiring performance. Transformational leadership is widely considered one of the most effective leadership styles in modern organizations. Women score higher in leadership effectiveness, and that comes from the Zenger Folkman study. They have higher competencies, including initiatives, resilience, integrity and honesty, relationship building, driving results, and developing others, among 100 other things I could start listing. So This whole thing that men make better leaders, no thank you.
Correct.
Like, let's get real, people. Why is our country the way it is right now?
Well,
come on.
Here's the thing, is that traditional leadership style that we discussed is not modern leadership. And it's being still propped up by a bunch of old men who aren't dead yet, unfortunately. So,
not that we're promoting death.
No. I'm just saying they're still alive
to
continue to promote this old leadership style that is no longer effective. It no longer works. And it's still, rippling down somewhat into younger generations, because if I hear one more podcaster in like their 20s,
oh my God, these male podcasters
talk about how women don't make good leaders and they're not even a leader themselves, I'm done.
Yeah.
So the new modern leadership, as your study cited, is based on emotional intelligence,
which women score much higher in than
Let me
men.
read this. Women on average tend to score higher on aspects of emotional intelligence. They're more likely to recognize emotions in others, more comfortable expressing empathy,
100%.
stronger relationship building and collaborative communication, and more attuned to social dynamics. Now, let me be clear. We are, on average, more emotionally intelligent. Part of the reason that is of course, the way we're wired, right? But the other reason is because the patriarchy has disenfranchised men. It's the meaning that old leadership model is, the old leadership model is based on that dominant and, control, like you can't show emotion. Emotional, expression is weakness. And that has socialized men to not understand how to properly process and express their emotions. And that has led to, in modern leadership, them to be less, potentially less effective. The men that are able to process their emotions effectively and express themselves effectively emotionally do have higher EQ and can make good leaders. We have been doing this for eons now. So we are fundamentally better prepared to be leaders and better leaders in the new modern leadership era. And I stand on that.
So, do you know that there was research done surrounding the pandemic and COVID-19? And in this research, it found that countries and organizations led by women often had stronger communication, faster responses, and higher trust levels. Studies suggested that women leaders prioritize collective well-being, caution, and clear communication during the uncertainty. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know, I don't know what will.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense if we're talking about what makes societies and businesses successful now versus 30 years ago and 50 years ago and 100 years ago. It's entirely different things. And as women, we are the communicators. We are the glue. We are we've talked about in past and within families, the emotional labor.
Yes.
And so, we have been designed to be good at this, to be good at leadership. And it's been a lie. And it's been a lie, I think, obviously fed to us that we're not capable, because women lead not through, I'm not saying not, control and dominance. It's through collaboration.
Yes.
I mean, primarily collaboration. It's through influence. It's through engagement. It's through, bringing and sharing information, and not top-down command and control, which is the old paradigm. And the old paradigm included in competition. And that's not competition between companies. That's competition within an organization, which, you don't get the best business results, from that type of culture.
Okay, so what about the women who say that other women they work with that are above them are too competitive with them and don't want to bring them up but want to shut them down because they've had to work so hard to get to where they are?
Well, I think as human beings, they're, on average, women are more emotionally intelligent, but that there are outliers, right? That's not on an individual anecdotal basis. There are women who are unfortunately not self-empowered enough to not see and not have enough kind of self-esteem, confidence, whatever you want to call it, to not see women as competition, right? And I think that that's unfortunate, but I think it does happen. But I think the data that you shared and that most people have experienced show that that is anecdotal, and it is not and it's not true, and that perpetuating a stereotype, a gender stereotype, which is what it is when you say women are too emotional to lead, and is exactly that. It is a way to continue to perpetuate a bias. And I think as women, it is our job to eliminate it.
Okay, so what are we going to do to eliminate it?
Well, first of all, I'm going to call out men. Go figure.
Right?
And that is to say that obviously there are men who can be, I've worked for great leaders who are men. I've also worked for great leaders who are women. So, men need to support women leaders and not get in their feelings about that. And listen, I've worked in corporate environments, and I have seen more dysregulated male leaders than female leaders.
Well, I think we've got some pretty good examples of that in the news on a daily basis.
Exactly. So, here's the thing. Currently are in kind of our, hopefully the final days of our patriarchy. The most socially acceptable emotion for men to have publicly is anger. Men can be
angry. Why? Why is that?
Good question.
I mean, that's ridiculous.
But frustration, disappointment, grief, sadness, all of those things that I'm sure men feel all the emotions. I mean, they're human beings just like us. They feel all the same emotions, but they are socially, it's not acceptable for men to show those emotions, like generally speaking. But anger is socially acceptable. So it tends to always come out as anger. I've seen it. I've seen it in the workplace. And let's be clear, being emotionally suppressed is not the same thing as being emotionally regulated. And men have not been socialized to be emotionally regulated. They've been socialized to be emotionally suppressed. So not the same thing. Women, we have been socialized to be emotionally regulated. And we bring that in the workplace, which means our emotions, all of the emotions, disappointment, happiness, sadness, frustration, anxiety, all of those things come out, we process them, we allow them to exist, and that, men see that and think we're too emotional. What we are is emotionally regulated. There's a difference. So again, the question is, do women make better leaders than men?
Well, I'm going to say yes for the most part.
I'm going to say that given where we've been in our old, leadership model and dynamics in, this country and just as a society, that we are much more equipped to lead in modern leadership practice and what people want now than men are. That doesn't mean that men can't be great leaders in this new modern leadership era, but they're going to have to do the work and do the work to understand, process, and in a healthy way their emotions, and appreciate and value women for who we are as actual human beings.
Well, okay, so that I think is a big part of the issue right there, because there are some amazing men leaders, and there's some amazing emotionally healthy men who run businesses and are just phenomenal people. But I think a big issue is appreciating, not with these men, but with the current status of men, not so great, is the appreciation and respect of women. I think that's lacking tremendously.
Yeah. I think we hear more and more, I hear more and more lately about, and it's a little eye-opening sometimes when you really delve into what when men are willing to say about women publicly, which it's like we're not exactly fully formed human beings in some men's minds. Like there's a lack of seeing us as equally valuable in society and wholly separate from them, and that our roles are not just to serve them and the things that they create, but to have our own creations. And again, we are the creators of life, and be valued equally in the world. And that is on men to see us that way. I see men as complete human beings, and
As they are.
And I mean, obviously a father, I have a brother, I have a son, I love men, but we should hold them more accountable for how they generally and how many of them view women, and men should hold other men accountable for that as well.
Okay, so that right there is an issue as well. I don't see many men holding other men accountable for bad behaviors.
True.
I have thankfully seen it in my son with some of his friends, and hoping that I've raised him to be different than what we're currently seeing in the news and in the media all the time. But men, I've been in situations with, couple groups and people, and one man is treating the woman very disrespectfully, and the other men sit quietly and don't do anything.
Yeah.
I mean, why do I have to be the one that says, that's not cool, that's not okay? Like,
Yeah.
Where does that come from? I mean, you and me, we hold each other accountable. I mean, you tell me when I'm out of line, and I don't, which isn't very often, because, we all know I'm like close to perfect. But the reality is, why weren't men taught to do that more? Or why do they just sit quietly, and they know in their heads hopefully they know this is not okay. And I'm generalizing, because there are some terrific men who are not like this. But why don't more men hold men accountable? When this whole different topic that we'll talk about, but when this 62 million men thing came out recently about videoing their partners drugged and all of these things, how in the world does it get to that? Why don't men say, this is not acceptable, this is not okay?
Yeah.
Why doesn't that happen more often?
Yeah, that's a great question.
That's something that gets me all the time.
For men. Like, why don't men hold other men more accountable? And listen, I get, like, if you're in a room and you hear your friend say something that's out of line, and you're in a room with a bunch of other people, that you don't call them out immediately in that room.
No, but take them aside later and say, hey, that was not cool.
But the moment you have the ability, out of respect for your relationship, to pull them aside and say, why would you say that? Or why would you do that? Or that's not cool. Why would you not do that? Because I'm not going to call you out in a room full of people either, because but I will call you out in private.
100%. And I wouldn't want a friend that didn't.
Yeah.
If I need that. We all need that. We need accountability.
And I don't know if it goes back to the whole old paradigm of being dominant, being control, I don't know, but I'd like to hear from men. Like, why don't men hold other men accountable? You came from a mother. A lot of you have sisters, wives, daughters, and women in your lives, that if that female were present, why would you not stand up for that for the female in your life? But why does it have to be someone you know? Meaning, what if it was a stranger? You know what I mean? And someone was saying something disrespectful, and you wouldn't say anything. If it were a female in your life, I would hope, but I don't know. So that's a question, I guess, for an answer for another day.
Okay.
But I think fundamentally, this conversation, I want to be clear, is not to divide men and women at all. I'm not looking for division. I'm looking for, you know, I don't know, reconciliation. I don't know what the right word is, but I'm looking for for men and women to come together to create something better for all of us. But it does start with addressing the deficits. And we've talked about indoctrination that we've received as women. And, we've mentioned, men have received their own form of indoctrination. The patriarchy has done a disservice to men and women.
100%.
And while I think we women have fought hard to support each other and elevate ourselves, and despite the conditions by which society has put us in, to excel, and I think there's a lot of data points that show that, but we want men to be at the same place we are. And so when there are men still spouting that women are too emotional to make good leaders, I'm just not having it anymore.
Okay, good.
So
I don't know what else to say. I mean, we hear it all the time, and
Yeah.
I would love to see it get better.
Yes. And I hope this conversation today helps other people who might think that, hear some information and hear a viewpoint and hear some data that might make them think differently about that and re-examine why they think that.
I hope so.
Yeah.
But you know what's really great? We are surrounded and have some incredible men who have been on our show or going to be on our show who
Yes.
are so opposite of what
I
we're
know.
talking about that it gives me
And
it
our
makes
and our
me-
sons
and our
are
sons.
not
Our
in
sons
the
are
same-
such good boys.
Yes.
It gives me hope
Yes.
that it's happening, and those men can all go out and make a change in other men's lives. You know, maybe our granddaughters won't be dealing with this as
Yeah.
much.
I,
That's the hope.
That's the hope. Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us at the Charleston Chicks today. I'm Lisa Nicole and Melanie. We would love to know your thoughts on this, on men in leadership, women in leadership, men holding men accountable, all the things. We'll see you next time. Thanks.